right, well, hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media's MegaCast. Today's topic is a cool one, accelerating innovation, devising cloud strategies and solutions. And I want to start things out today by saying a big preemptive thank you to all of you, not just for joining us, but for participating in this exciting conversation. We're going to be chatting about kickstarting your organization's innovative thinking with some new and exciting approaches to cloud strategies and solutions. So on the MegaCast today, we have a collection of absolutely fascinating experts. They're joining us from companies that are redefining the cloud space with these new solutions and services coming out every day. You will be hearing from experts at Rubrik, Nutanix, and Lacework. Together with this incredible and expert guidance from these wonderful humans, we will explore the hottest solutions, must-know trends, and creative strategies, all here in one place. This is going to be such an interesting conversation. I hope you are all ready to get excited, get pumped up, ask questions, get engaged, and to dive in this morning. We're going to kick off our day here with a couple of housekeeping things, just some basic information. Well, let's start with the questions window. Now, a lot of you have found this already. It's in your webinar control panel. If you haven't already said hi, there's a big and awesome crew of humans with us here today. So reach out, give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. But that next step is, as I've said, we want this to be an informative and interactive webinar for you, which means that we want to see all of your technical questions. So throughout today's MegaCast, we hope you'll get engaged. Make sure to ask those questions. I see people posting comments, links, all of that. That's great. You know, whatever you've got on your mind, go ahead and share that. Be cool. keep it topic adjacent, and feel free to share that with us in that window section. Now, not only will we have team members responding to you throughout the live webinar today, we'll also have some dedicated Q&A sessions at the end of presentations, and if we don't get to your question during the live session, we will make sure that the awesome humans from Rubrik, from Nutanix, and from Lacework get all of those questions, those comments, anything that you've been kind of wondering about with these solutions and strategies, and they will follow up with you afterwards. Okay, the next thing I want to point out is that little Twitter button on your audience console there. So when you have kind of a cool little aha moment today, when you hear something really interesting or new or exciting, you want to share that with your community, use that Twitter button, and the hashtag for today's MegaCast is going to get automatically added to your post. All right, and the last stop on your audience console guided tour today is to check out the Handouts tab. You're going to find some fantastic resources, some takeaways from our speakers. We have an absolutely info pack collection, solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, some free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, lots more. So click around in that handout section and download some of those awesome resources. Be sure to get those before you head out today. Now, if I haven't gotten the chance to meet you already, my name is Jess Steinbach. I'm with Actual Tech Media, and I'm very happy to be one of your moderators for this exciting MegaCast today. The wonderful Scott Becker and David Davis will be hanging out with us on live chat today. And in even better news than those three cool people, we have some prizes to give away to you all. Today on the MegaCast, you could win one of 5 Apple iPhone 14 Pros plus a $500 Amazon gift card that we will be giving away every 30 minutes. Now, as a reminder, if you've been here before, you know this already, you do need to be here with us live at the MegaCast in order to qualify for these prizes. All winners also must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. And if you're not sure what those are, don't panic. We've got them all written down for you right over in that Handouts tab I was mentioning to you earlier. Just click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you will find the full T's and C's waiting for you there. Okay, now I was saying earlier how much we love getting your technical questions, and that is true. If anything comes up today, like a little tech error or something's not working for you, you lose sound, anything like that, I do want to remind you that a browser refresh is probably going to fix any of those usual issues. But if that doesn't work, if a browser refresh doesn't work, go ahead and shoot a message to the Actual Tech Media team in that same questions window, and we will be there to help you out. We'll give you some suggestions and see if we can come up with a solution together. But the most important thing about that questions window is those questions. And in fact, we love that so very much that we have a special additional prize and incentive for all you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's MegaCast, we will be giving away a $50 Amazon gift card to the best question asked in each of our live sessions here. That's each. So that's 3 different $50 Amazon gift cards that we will be giving away. And we review all the questions asked after we wrap. So even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. So stay tuned for that. I'm putting up a few T's and C's for you up on the slide here, as things like we'll follow up with you after we wrap, that sort of stuff, if you are a prize winner, and that all prize winners are required to submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media. Again, the full T's and C's for you in the handouts tab. Okay, now this slide is a little bit different than usual. If you are a winner here today and you would like to donate the value of your prize to help with earthquake relief, we would love to help facilitate that. You can see a few of the organizations up here on the screen right now. I know we've all been watching the news as it unfolds, and a lot of people are looking for ways that they can help support those affected by the earthquake in Turkey and Syria. So please do keep this option in mind. If you are a winner and this is something that you'd like to explore, you want to get involved with these organizations, let us know, and our team would love to help make that a reality. All right, well, we are pretty happy to have you all here with us live at the MegaCast today, and we definitely want to stay connected to you, so please do reach out. You can find Actual Tech Media on Twitter and on LinkedIn. There's also lots of great content for you there. And speaking of awesome content, if you're looking to find a little bit more after we wrap today, make sure that you have subscribed to Actual Tech Media's channel on YouTube. So many great on-demand webinars just waiting for you there, so do go check that out. All right, now if you were with us last week at the MegaCast, you were there for the grand announcement, the very first group to hear about the brand new Actual Tech Media Decisions group. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it later on, but I'm just teasing this out now. There is a link. There is also a link in your handout section, so please do go check that out. But the most important thing to remember with this is it's brand spanking new, and it's 100% worth spending a little time exploring. I'm going to come back to it and tell you more. I'm going to get us started with our sessions, and then we'll chat about it a little bit later. So stay tuned for more information on the decisions groups there. All right, and the last thing we're going to talk about in our intro housekeeping is the Refer a Friend opportunity. Now, if you haven't explored this already, this is a great way to grow that community. So be sure to refer an industry friend or coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. You find a link to do that right there in your handouts tab. You will also get automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. Now, we promise not to spam your friends, your coworkers. We're going to send them a list of upcoming webinars. We send them a little invitation. If they don't respond to that, we send them one more little nudge just in case they missed that first one, because we all know how busy life gets, and then that's it. That's the only communication that they're getting from us, so you are not registering your friends and family members to get spammed. And then both you and your coworker or friend could win a $300 Amazon gift card. We hold those drawings every month, so be sure to refer somebody awesome, help us grow this wonderful community, and then you can have like a cool little webinar book club with your friends afterwards. Who doesn't love that? All right, well, let's keep things rolling here, because I can tell that those of you who have been with us before are already going to be excited about that slide, because up next, I get to introduce you all to what is really a familiar face here at the MegaCast, the one and only Ned in the Cloud, and that is Ned Bellavance. He's a Pluralsight author and MVP. Ned, you always start these days out with such a fun and interesting discussion. I know today will be no exception, because we are talking about the always interesting and ever-changing topic of AI. So with that, Ned, I will hand things over to you. Take it away.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. My name is Ned Bellavance, and today I want to discuss something that is likely already on your mind: artificial intelligence, and how it is going to be the main driver for innovation in the cloud and beyond for the foreseeable future. But first, let's start with a little bit of background. The tech world, and honestly the world at large, is facing major challenges at the moment that are going to drive changes in how we consume and operate both the public and private cloud. The first of these is the specter of recession and economic uncertainty. Now, while it remains to be seen whether the US enters a recession proper, one thing is certain: the days of cheap money at 0% interest rates are over. Cash is getting more expensive to borrow, and companies are looking for ways to cut costs. That has resulted, unfortunately, in a lot of layoffs at companies big and small. The reduction in staff has put the onus on the remaining employees to do more with less, and those folks in turn are looking to technology to help bail them out. At the same time, the finance folks are reviewing the books and discovering, hey, cloud costs are a major expense, and they're looking for ways to cut or reduce those costs. Hiring an army of consultants or a full-time staff of cloud cost analysts is not really an option given the current economic climate, so they are also turning to technology to provide the necessary insight. There's also been a major rise in cybercrime and ransomware attacks. Even those with cyber insurance are finding that the insurance companies are not covering the cost of the attacks, and they're being much more selective about who they will insure. This is driving companies to look for ways to reduce their attack surface and protect their data. Once again, hiring a full-time staff of new security experts or, getting an expensive consulting group to come out is not really an option. So again, technology is being looked to as a solution. And the key technology behind all of these needs is going to be artificial intelligence. Allow me to expand on that a bit. Reduction in staffing means the folks left are being asked to wear additional hats. One of the best ways to improve your operational efficiency is to implement automation. But automation typically requires knowledge of both the systems involved that you're automating and the automation platform itself. Traditionally, automation platforms required some amount of programming and scripting, making the initial automation effort kind of a heavy lift. But we have seen the recent rise of low-code and no-code solutions that allow for automation without the need for extensive programming. AI can further augment these solutions by providing a conversational interface that allows non-technical users to interact with the automation platform and create their own automation workflows. You can see evidence of this approach with the Microsoft 365 apps. The need for a reduction in cost is driving the adoption of FinOps technologies that analyze cloud spend and provide recommendations for cost reduction. Now, cloud cost analysis tools they're nothing new. In fact, there was a bit of a gold rush on early solutions about 6 or 7 years ago, with many of those standalone companies being scooped up by the major cloud providers. Those tools were fairly simple in nature, and while they made claims to leverage the power of AI, they were mostly just basic statistical analysis and some traditional machine learning sprinkled in. There is a whole new generation of tools and vendors that are actually using AI to provide better analysis and recommendations that could actually be implemented and interpreted by the average cloud user. On the security front, implementing robust security and compliance controls is difficult, and it's even harder when you're short-staffed and being tasked with increased operational efficiency and better security. AI can help here as well. There are a number of AI-based security tools that can be used to detect and prevent cyber attacks. Beyond simple anomaly detection, AI can be used to detect and prevent malicious software that does not have an existing signature. Additionally, AI can be used to help develop and implement security policies and controls that can be used to reduce your attack surface and protect your data. Now, looking towards the future, I know that people are feeling a little skeptical about AI, and believe me, I feel a little skeptical too. We've heard this story before, with overblown promises and frankly, underwhelming results. It feels a lot like just marketecture, right? So why is it different this time? The confluence of several major factors is driving the adoption of AI in the cloud. We have robust compute, massive data sets to draw on, new algorithms that do what they say on the tin, and most importantly, user-friendly interfaces that have all combined to cross a threshold in AI adoption. And I think we are just at the beginning of an S-curve shaped explosion of AI adoption. You could call it the overnight success that takes 20 years to achieve, because there has been massive investment in AI over the last 10 to 20 years. And now we're starting to see the fruits of all that labor and investment, which begs the question, what does this all mean for you, the technology professional? Well, for starters, AI is going to make the drudgery of our work a little easier. but it cannot replace the context, experience, and specialized knowledge that you carry in your head. Just give ChatGPT a prompt to write about anything technology related, and you'll quickly spot inaccuracies. In a sense, AI will be able to provide a rough draft or a passable first effort, something you might get from a junior admin. But that effort still needs to be vetted, corrected, and amended to be anything approaching useful. As a technology professional, your deep experience in a specific area and general knowledge of enterprise architecture will be incredibly valuable. AI will help you be more efficient, but it cannot replace you. Secondly, AI is going to make the technology we use more accessible to the average user. I equate the introduction of consumer-level AI to that of the smartphone revolution 15 years ago. The iPhone essentially put a supercomputer in every person's pocket and made the technology pretty easy to use. That revolution informed consumer and enterprise products and design for the next decade. With the public now becoming familiar with interactive AI experiences through things like ChatGPT, they are going to demand the same features out of their enterprise products and software in the same way that they demanded the iPhone experience from their traditional enterprise hardware. The next generation of enterprise software will be designed with AI in mind and will be more accessible to the average user. So, in terms of practical advice, what can you do to prepare yourself? First, learn about artificial intelligence and the implementations that are out there today. Talk to your enterprise vendors and take an active role in how they plan to leverage AI in their products. If you're worried about AI taking your job, focus on skills and knowledge that drive economic value for your company and are not undifferentiated heavy lifting. Focus on things that AI cannot do, and that is what will keep you employed. At least, those are my thoughts on the subject. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. You can reach me on Twitter at Ned1313 or on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening and enjoy the rest of the event.
Oh man, thanks Ned for that awesome presentation and keynote, getting us started on such a fun and interesting, thought-provoking note. And I hope that that's got you all fired up and ready to jump into this conversation today. I have a poll question up on the screen for you, and what we're curious about is what is your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions in your company? And this is an interesting one today because what we're talking about is, innovation, which is kind of sometimes hard to put a specific, which this solution A equals innovation. But let's just sort of think of it more as maybe enhancements. And when are you thinking about upgrading or enhancing or implementing something that would allow some new growth or scalability at your organization? What are you excited about exploring, and what is the timeline that you'd be thinking about bringing that into your organization? So go ahead and click on that poll there. I also have to say I did get a comment from Peter asking me if I'd be eating any Jelly Bellies today. If for those of you who missed the MegaCast like last week, I'm going to highly suggest that you track down the Bean Boozled episode that we did with Keeper Security, where we discussed cybersecurity while eating really, really terrible Jelly Bellies. I somehow managed to get every single bad flavor. I've been asked what my least favorite was. I think used bandage and dirty dish soap are really taking the cake on that one. But it is a lot of fun. So if you haven't found that, go check out the MegaCast from last week on the Actual Tech Media YouTube channel and make sure that you give that a watch. At least my suffering will not be in vain then. All right, but no Jelly Bellies on the schedule today, I promise you. The only thing we do have on the schedule today is some awesome content. Like that segue? How is that? That's an award-winning segue right there. I'm very excited to introduce you all to our first two expert presenters in today's MegaCast. We're going to be talking with two Chris's, double the Chris's, double the fun. We're going to be chatting with Chris Lumna, Database Solutions Architect, and Chris Wolf, a Database Solutions Architect both at Rubrik. So Chris and Chris, thank you so much for being here with us today to get us started. Chris Squared, I'm gonna hand the mic right on over to you both. Take it away, Chris.
My name is Chris Lumna. I'm an advisory solution architect with Rubrik. I've been with Rubrik now for just under 5 years, but before that I spent the previous 15 years as a production DBA. With me I have Chris Wolf. Chris?
Hi, everybody. My name is Christopher Wolf. I'm a SQL Server Solutions Architect here at Rubrik. Before this, I was a DBA for a better part of 20 years in many different industries.
So today we're going to talk about SQL Server with Rubrik and how Rubrik can help meet a lot of the challenges that DBAs have. In our previous lives, we both said we were DBAs. And as DBAs, we had to manage a large, ever-growing environment. Our first priority was always data protection, with users having access to their data being priority 1A. Additionally, we had to make sure that data protection tasks did not affect business operations. Because of this, we always had to think about problems with dealing with the environment. So today, we're going to take you through some of those problems, and Chris is going to show you how Rubrik solves those problems. So DBAs are constantly thinking about issues like, how do we deal with issues of sprawl? How do we keep the data safe? When the data is needed, how do we do it in the most efficient way possible to move at the speed of business? And how do we make sure that data protection tasks do not affect business operations? DBAs will work with business and data owners to define RPO and RTO rules. Based on that information, they define service level agreements, or SLAs. And those service level agreements state how often a backup should run, how long do they need to be kept around for, when should the backup run, where should backups be stored long term, should I copy the backup to a different location? With large, ever-growing database environments, when DBAs want to protect their environment, they have to go to each SQL server and set up these backup jobs. These jobs are designed to meet those business requirements. They have to do the work on each and every server in their environment. Then they have to make sure that all of these jobs are running successful each day. When recovery operations need to happen, there isn't a central spot for the DBA to go to see what backups are available. MSDB, which is the backup catalog for SQL Server, is on each individual SQL server. Now, think about those problems and what I just mentioned, and now compound them by having multiple data centers with database servers in each of those data centers, and having your data also live in the cloud. Because you have this growing environment that extends beyond just your data center into the cloud providers, now you have different tools, different approaches, and different processes that have to be used for data protection.
With Rubrik Security Cloud, you are provided a single pane of glass that centralizes your management of all your SQL servers in different locations, regardless if they sit in your data center or in a cloud provider. This includes SQL Server in a VM, Azure SQL databases, and managed instances, and AWS RDS. Rubrik Security Cloud is the single tool and approach to configure your backups regardless of where they live. With this single pane of glass comes global catalog management. When a recovery needs to happen, the DBA need not to remember. Is the database in the different data center or in the cloud? Is the backup local to the server or archived to tape? What backup files do I need to recover to the point in time required? DBAs can log an RSC, search for the database, and see and select the point in time they need for recovery with a few clicks to start the recovery process. This makes the DBA more efficient and a hero to the users and to management. With this simplified workflow and role-based access controls, you can provide self-service access to enable users to be more agile. Developers can now recover the database they need when they need it without affecting production systems.
So as mentioned on the previous slide, DBAs are creating and managing backup jobs across their environment to meet the SLAs that are defined by the business unit. A lot of the time, the DBA is used to manage all of these jobs. This gets added to when application development teams create databases outside of the DBA view. These newly created databases need to have backups configured that meet those business unit requirements.
Rubrik uses an SLA domain as a declarative statement to manage the lifecycle of the backup. The SLA domain will define frequency of backups, their retention, when the backup should happen, if the backup should be copied to a separate location, and if long-term retention is required, moving the backup to that archive location, which would release storage back to the environment. All based on the rules set forth by the business units and DBAs working together. The SLA domain becomes a simple to create and read declarative rule set for how backups should be managed. DBAs will apply these SLA domains to SQL servers with a few clicks right from Rubrik Security Cloud. Rubrik will then automatically protect every database on the SQL server. As new databases are created, Rubrik will automatically discover and protect these new databases, with the SLA assigned to the SQL server. Now, instead of having a DBA having to remember to set up backups, or worse, forgetting to do so, they can take care of the many other tasks they need to do in a day. All this because they have defined the backup rules and applied them once to a SQL server.
So let's walk through a typical SLA and show the options available for SQL Server. When we create an SLA, you have the option to protect more than just SQL Server. On this page, you can see I have other relational databases such as Oracle, DB2, and SAP HANA. Let's just focus on SQL Server for now. If you see here, we also have Azure SQL databases, Azure SQL managed instances, and an Amazon RDS when it comes to cloud providers as well. In the next step, we're going to answer the first two questions we brought up earlier. How often do I want to take a backup? And how long do I want to retain the backup for? So let's just do that real quick by saying I want to take a backup once a day and keep it for 30 days. You can also say once a month and keep it for 12 months. If I want to, I can also have more granularity. If you click here, you can also see we can have hourly, weekly, yearly. I can also change the time of the month I'd like to do this, whether I want it at the first or the middle of the month instead. Lots of choices here. We go down below, we can answer the next question. When do I take the backup? In this case, we can set a snapshot window. Let's say I wanted to set it for 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. I only want to take my snapshots in that time frame. Rubrik will go ahead and set up for you at that point. If you decide not to use this, though, Rubrik's very good about knowing when to take a good backup. It has a lot of intelligence in the background to help with that as well. On the next section, we talk about where should the backups stay long term. With archiving, we can help with that, and we can push to secondary locations, such as a cloud provider through object storage, or a secondary NAS drive. And here I can set a threshold of when I would like to push that information up to the object storage in this case. So let's go to 30 days. And at that point, after 30 days, I'll automatically push those backups up to that new location. I can also enable instant archiving, and the instant archiving will automatically push to that secondary location, but keep it on the Rubrik brick for warm storage. Last question of should I keep the copy in a different location? We offer replication. So in this case, I can move to a secondary location, not in the main data center where I'm taking this backup. So if I pick Detroit in this case, going down to here, and let's say maybe I want to keep it over there for 15 days or so. So I'll keep it there for 15 days, and then that way I have the data in two locations just in case. For DR scenarios, things like that. If you look here, we can also add a secondary location just in case we want to have it on two locations. In this section, we set that point in time recovery that we're talking about. Going back to the initial question, how often do I want to take a backup? How long do I want to retain it for? I could say I want to keep this for the snapshots for every 15 minutes. and keep it for 14 days. At that point, you just give it a friendly name. Let's say database December. And we'll give it a good description. For SQL Server. And if you go down here a little bit, this goes over all the options we chose for our particular backups. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and create the SLA. So now that we've created our SLA, let's go ahead and assign it to some SQL servers. I go to the data center here and go to SQL Server databases. You see I have a list of all my SQL servers ready to go for me. You see we have specific ones here that don't have an SLA assigned. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'll go ahead and click these three, and I'll hit Manage Protection. And I'll go ahead and hit the Database December SLA here. Down below, you see here we have a copy only section, but let's just stick with the options we've chosen. So click Next, and I'll go ahead and assign that. And at this point, you've assigned to the specific host. They'll go ahead and assign the SLA to the instances themselves and also to the individual databases underneath. But let's say I wanted to assign a different SLA to an individual database. So let's go ahead and click inside of here, go to our instance, and this lists all the databases we have. Let's say this Palo Alto one is a data warehouse, and maybe I want to just do a snapshot once a day. So I can click Manage Protection here, and I'll pick the bronze one here. It just takes a snapshot once a day for me. Click Next and assign it. And at that point, you have a direct assignment on the bronze, and it's basically just it's just doing that daily snapshot rather than worrying about transaction logs or any archiving. So real easy, real simple. So we've covered a lot today. The main thing to point out is it's a very simple setup. No need to worry about agent jobs or anything like that. Rubrik will take care of all that for you as long as you have an SLA assigned.
Managing the ever-growing landscape has its own set of challenges that we've shown how Rubrik addresses. But the next set of challenges is protecting those backups, protection from things like man-in-the-middle attacks, ransomware attacks, or accidental deletion. These challenges are additional issues that need to be addressed. They generally require additional tools, processes, and approaches. This adds extra work and complexity for the DBA.
Rubrik keeps your databases safe by encrypting the backup while it is being transferred from SQL Server to Rubrik, then ensuring the backup is encrypted at rest for its lifecycle while managed by Rubrik. With Rubrik Zero Trust by design, your data remains readily available. Services are architected with a logical air gap, secure protocols, native immutability, encryption, and access controls. Role-based access controls allow for the DBAs to maintain control over their environment. They can add SQL servers, manage what SLAs are assigned to what SQL server, handle backup and recovery operations without having access to objects they do not need. This can be broken down into smaller groups and roles as well. For instance, development teams can be given access to specific databases instead of the entire fleet to provide self-service recoveries to their environments.
As the business grows, so does the size and the number of databases. While the environment grows, the number of business tasks also grows. What does not increase is the number of hours in a day. And while backups are crucial to business continuity and success, they are often forced to low usage times. Because businesses are becoming more 24/7, those low usage times are shrinking. This means DBAs often see their backup windows continuously shrink, and they need to get more done in less time.
Rubrik will intelligently manage backup jobs across the database environment, to ensure that backups are being done inside the backup window defined in the SLA domain. Backups done using our incremental forever process that reduces time to complete a backup. With this process, we transfer just the blocks that have been changed. This speeds up the backup process by sending less data across the network and writing to the Rubrik storage. When you add our change block tracking, you further speed up the process. When it comes time to recover a database, Live Mount enables you to recover in minutes rather than hours by recovering the database on Rubrik storage and presenting to a SQL Server host using a secure SMB3 share. The secure share is not browsable on the network and is only accessible by the SQL Server.
DBAs can never recover something quickly enough. There's always a user screaming or a manager looking over their shoulder asking why is the most critical database that is currently broken not fixed yet. In the DBA world, their options are kind of limited. They need to figure out where the backups exist. Do they have enough storage on the host to have a second copy of that backup? If they don't, they have to go talk to the storage team and try to get storage allocated to the server. That in itself is its own process and problem. Then they have to go to the server team and say, hey, can you take this storage that the server team allocated and connect it to my SQL Server? Potentially, they might have to talk to the backup team and say, can you retrieve this backup from tape? That's an extended period of time now. And once they have all these backup files and they start the restore process, then they have to wait for that process to complete. And if they find out at the end of the recovery process that they went through, it was to the wrong point in time, now they have to redo the entire process all over again, making that recovery even longer. This requires the DBA to deal with a lot of process and people outside of their control and requires a lot of time. DBAs are the visual focus while users and managers all look to them to work as fast as possible.
With Rubrik, the DBA always has backups at their fingertips, ready to be used for recovery. Since the SLA domain is able to be configured to take transaction log backups, Rubrik gives the DBA full point-in-time recovery. Rubrik displays the backups in a simple-to-use timeline for easy recovery. We touched on Live Mount in the last section, but to further expand on the topic, it can be used for operations like object-level recovery, backup verification, and development testing. We'll show an example of object-level recovery in the demo. Rubrik can also perform a full database in-place restore with just a few clicks. Think of it as an easy button for recovery. Export gives the DBA control of the recovery. This gives more choice for recovery to the same or different SQL Server host without involving other departments. This includes items such as drive locations and file names. Rubrik provides APIs and SDKs through scripting languages like PowerShell or Python to automate various recovery scenarios from a single script.
All right, so let's take a look at an example. Let's use Rubrik, and we'll actually, in this case, we're also going to use some APIs using the PowerShell SDK that we have to do object-level recovery. In this example, we're going to go through and show how to recover from a couple of bad events that can happen in an environment. So let's look at things. First thing I want to do is I want to look at the before on the environment. So let's run this query here, and this query is going to show us what databases we have on our SQL Server. So we have a 2 terabyte database here, a 5 terabyte database here, and a few more databases down here. Just so you can see that same exact SQL Server in SSMS, here's the SQL Server that I'm referring to here. Let's dive in a little bit deeper because we're going to use this 2 terabyte database as our example, but size for the most part doesn't really matter in this scenario. So in this case, I'm going to show you a list of the tables that are out on that database, and I want you to pay attention to the district table and the warehouse table. If we look at this table listing here, we can see the district table has about 300,000 records, and the warehouse table has 30,000 records. So let's go do something bad. Let's think about a scenario. A user is doing some work in a database, and they need to clean up. They need to go ahead and delete warehouses 1 through 5. But when they created their query, they forgot to highlight the where clause. So instead of deleting just warehouses 1 through 5, they inadvertently deleted every record in the warehouse table. This is a service interruption event for most applications. Let's look at another scenario. A junior DBA is doing a change. They're doing some development work. They're supposed to be dropping the district table from the development table so they can roll out a new change. But they inadvertently connected to production. So instead of just dropping this table from a development environment, they just dropped the district table from the production database. Both of those are service interruption events. So now let's go look at that environment now. So again, we're going to list out the tables, and we're going to see what's out there. Again, pay attention to district and warehouse. We'll notice that the warehouse table is now empty, and there's no district table. So you can see that we actually did those particular commands. Let's go recover from those bad events. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to live mount the database from the most recent backup that Rubrik has. Now, this can be totally done from the UI, but we're going to do this from the API because this just shows that we are API first and that we can do these things right from code. This is helpful because in a lot of cases, DBAs like to use PowerShell to script out different types of operations. They can build out full-fledged recovery scenarios with some PowerShell code. In this case here, we're using LiveMount. LiveMount's going to take a database, basically any size, and recover that back to a SQL server in just a few minutes. A 2 terabyte database would take several, if not at least almost an hour, if not more, depending on your environment, depending on the size of the database. Instead, we're going to have that database up and running inside of a couple minutes. And this is all done using LiveMount because what Rubrik does is it does the entire restore operation on the Rubrik storage itself. It reads the backup, it creates the database on the SQL server, and it goes ahead and attaches those data files from a secure SMB3 share hanging off of the Rubrik device. You don't have to copy that data back across the network and write it down to your storage on your SQL Server side. This 2 terabyte database will be up and running pretty quickly. This can be used not just for things like object level recovery. You could also use it for things like backup validation. What I always tell customers is that if you're not validating your backups, you don't have a backup. So you can live mount very, very quickly and prove that your backup is good. And because if you can restore it, which a live mount is a restore operation, your backup is good. You've just proved that your backup is valid. So in a minute 53, we just mounted and made a 2 terabyte database available back to a SQL server. And I'm going to cut over SQL Server here, refresh this environment, and show you. I have this new database here called LiveMount. That's sitting right there. If we come back into our notebook, and let's look at the databases that are out there, we can see that the main database, the 2 terabyte database that we worked on first, it's all sitting on mount points, sitting on my local storage. But the LiveMount, that's sitting on UNC paths. This is all sitting on the Rubrik storage, not on your SQL server. So I didn't need to talk to a storage team or a server team to get new 2 terabytes added to this server to do this recovery operation. So now let's look at the databases and their sizes. If I look at this, I can see my 2 terabyte database here. My LiveMount is right here. It's the same size. So let's start recovering things now. I'm going to take the contents from my backup, which is this LiveMount database here, and I'm going to put it back into the production warehouse table there. So now I run this. I put all 30,000 records back from my backup into my production database. Let's go recover the district table. Now, because that table was dropped, I would have had to have scripted out the table from the LiveMount and then run it in my production database. So I'll do that first. I already scripted it out, and I have the script ready. I've just created the district table in my production database. Now, put the records back. This will now run and put all 300,000 records from my live mount back into my production database. When that's done, we're going to go look at their tables and their sizes to show that the table is back and the records are back. So we have our district table now is here with the 300,000 records. And if I look a little further, the warehouse table's back. Great. Now, I didn't have to go and reach out to all these different teams. I didn't have to go and get new storage allocated to the box. I can now recover those two tables that had something very bad happen to them in the entire time of this demo, which was about 5 minutes. Think about that when the next time someone does something inadvertent in your environment and you need to do a recovery. You can't recover a 2 terabyte database in 5 minutes.
We've covered a lot today, so let's do a recap and talk about next steps for you as a customer. Recap here, Rubrik Security Cloud provides a single pane of glass for managing SQL Server environments, both in your data center and in the cloud. Rubrik reduces backup times to fit inside business unit requirements. It also protects your data backups both in flight and at rest with encryption and immutability. Lastly, it utilizes the flexible recovery options to recover what data is needed when you need it. So next steps or additional questions that you might have, reach out to your account team to schedule a health check or a business review, and you can learn more about SQL Server and Rubrik. Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, well, thank you, Chris, and Chris for that awesome presentation and demo. And I know we wanted to go a bit long on content, so we had to dig into our questions time. But the Rubrik team is going to be answering some questions on live chat. We're also going to make sure that all of those questions, and there were a lot of good ones coming in, are getting to the Rubrik team. So anything that doesn't get answered on live chat, you will get an email response back from that. Another great way to make sure that you get the answers that you're looking for from Rubrik is to click on the poll that you see on the screen here. You know, what additional information would you like to get about the Rubrik solution? So if you have some questions that you want to dig into, this is a great way to make sure that you can get the answers that you need. So do click on that poll. I'm also going to encourage you to head on over to the Handouts tab. You can find Rubrik's technical white paper, Microsoft 365 Architecture and Security. You'll get to explore the elements of Rubrik's M365 backup and recovery product line, including the infrastructure, encryption and key management, checking out where data is stored, and how Rubrik is keeping that data available to you and keeping the integrity. So definitely worth kind of checking that out. Do take a little time to explore. So download that and save for later. While you are downloading that handout and while you are answering that poll, I am going to go ahead and give away some prizes. And that's right, I said prizes, plural. We're going to do a quick, let's do both a $500 Amazon gift card and an Apple iPhone 14 Pro. I'm feeling jazzy right now. I'm going to remind you one more time that you do need to be here live present with us at the MegaCast in order to win. Our very first winner today of an Amazon gift card is Jeff Liakos of California. Jeff Liakos of California, you have won a $500 Amazon gift card. And our very first winner of an Apple iPhone 14 Pro is Dalton Wynn of Minnesota. I love those Minnesotans, Midwestern crew. Dalton Wynn of Minnesota, you have won an Apple iPhone 14 Pro. Congratulations to you both. As always, we will follow up about claiming your prize after we wrap the webinar. Don't forget, there are still lots more chances to win a prize today, plus that best question gift card from each session. And I can tell you that the competition for that is absolutely fierce. We have so many questions coming in. Raja Lakshmi, I have to give you a gold star for volume of excellent questions today. Well done. All right, well, keep those questions coming because up next we have a fascinating speaker in the wings for us, and I'm very excited to introduce you all to the next presenter in today's MegaCast. That's Maggie Smith, Senior Solutions Manager at Nutanix. Maggie, thank you so much for being here to chat with us today. I know you have a ton of great info to cover. We're going to do some Q&A, so I'm going to hand the mic right on over to you. Take it away, Maggie.
All right, Jess, thank you very much. That was such a fascinating presentation by Ned, by the way. I'm really interested in AI and especially machine learning, and I'm going to share with you a few examples of something to think about. So my talk today is about considering how accelerating innovation, devising cloud strategies. And Nutanix's position is don't think about a strategy, think about this as an operating model and tune your way to delivering that capability to your shareholders as part of that IT service. And I've got a lot to unpack. I want to spend some time talking about what we're learning from industry analysts, from our customers, and then we're going to talk a little bit about redefining the cloud and what we mean by this operating model. I want to give you a little commercial of how we address the issues and concerns that customers have given us and provided us in terms of that cloud operating model that they want to deploy, and of course a look at our customer successes, and hope to answer some questions for you too along the way. So let's talk about digital transformation. Now this has been on us forever, it seems like. I've been talking about digital transformation far too long, and I think a lot of companies are in it now. And I want to say that there is an app for that. That is just the mantra of today. Instead of going through a browser or looking or downloading a piece of paper, you go online and you fill out a form through an application and you're done. And as a result of that, more and more enterprises are introducing applications to address their customer needs. This is something that came to us from IDC. By 2026, and mind you folks, that's only 3 years away, we expect to have 750 million applications in market to address customer needs, shareholder needs. Remember, there's an app for that, and that's how you got to think about it. What kind of infrastructure do I have in place in order to address this emerging application explosion? Well, thinking about the data center, the core data center, is it really equipped today to handle this application explosion? Now, I want to go back to Ned's comments. He talked a lot about AI, but there was some element of machine learning in there. And I'm going to start on the edge of this diagram, using the word edge, to think about how our customers, Nutanix customers, are deploying more and more resources at the edge because that's where the devices are. And that's oftentimes where their customer is. And those devices are capturing real-time information. So think about the edge as another way or another operating model to consider as you deliver these applications and capture data and store data. And then you move to the right and you say, okay, there's the public hyperscalers that are available to us from AWS, from Microsoft, from Google, and they also form a role for us in how to take advantage of their capabilities as you think about this explosion of applications. And by 2027, this actually comes to us from IDC as well, they expect that 85% of the workload placements that are in the core data center today will no longer be optimal in order to address consumer needs. They might be at the edge or be needed at the edge, or they might be needed in more of a hyperscale environment. So what you need to think about is rebalancing your data center initiatives and your data center strategy to deliver a common cloud platform that reaches to the edge, that reaches, of course, to the core, but also reaches out to the public cloud, because there's a lot of resources that we can capture and take advantage of. And as a result of considering that, you really, really need to think hard about where you're going to place these applications, because this is under IDC, a point of view. Poor workload replacement or placement may lead to performance degradation, excessive costs, security risks, compliance issues, all kinds of things that you're probably thinking about today. And again, it should form the core decision or strategy when you think about how to deploy resources to address this application explosion. So either at the edge, in the core data center, or out the cloud. Lots of different things to think about. But the thing I want you to take away is I need to consider something called a common cloud platform. So let's move ahead and talk about what we're learning from our customers. And this is information that we've gathered both from IDC, the industry analysts, but we query our customers once a year, and we formulate this in our cloud survey. And this is available from Nutanix.com. And as you see, 85% of the folks that we talk to, again, sustained by the IDC research, says that 85% of these leaders look to a hybrid cloud to manage this application explosion and the data that is coming from these applications. And so what does that mean? Well, that means I may have a private cloud in place in order to address compliance issues and how I treat and store my stakeholder data. I also may have things on the public cloud, perhaps from a disaster recovery perspective, and making sure that I can retain data as needed. And we're also finding that 70% of the time, we're using more than just one cloud. That's interesting too. So you may have data in the Azure cloud, you may have data in AWS, and you may have data that's generated by all these applications resident in your data center in a private cloud. And so when you think about that, going back to my statement about a common cloud platform, how do you manage that successfully in a specific data plane that addresses everything coming in from the edge, coming in from the data center, and coming in from that public cloud? Again, multiple public clouds in use. So now let's go back to our typical infrastructure and what's happening today. And this is, again, what I hear from customers is how they're looking at how to build that common cloud platform that can readjust and apply all the resources needed to address this tsunami of applications. And what you find, more of the traditional infrastructures are really being developed in silos, where you have a row of compute services that are handling all your application needs. You may have a storage area network or a network attached storage that's managing the data that's coming out from applications. And what is happening within the legacy infrastructure, for lack of a better term, is that the effort maintained in order to deliver applications, 80% of that effort is just going into managing the infrastructure. You need specialized skills. You need a lot of thought behind the integration of how to put these applications in place that manages and can work within that traditional infrastructure. And as a result of that, you spend a lot less time in innovation and a lot more time in just managing and keeping your head above water and within this traditional infrastructure. So really is now the time, as you think about introducing more and more applications, to think about building that common cloud platform that addresses data movement and application availability across multiple clouds. So here's a couple thoughts in terms of redefining cloud and kind of thinking about cloud as an operating model rather than as a journey to or a destination to be reached. The outcomes that everyone is considering to think about, and they probably think about over and over again, is how do I eliminate costs? How do I eliminate risk? How do I ensure I'm building a secure environment in order to meet the needs of my shareholders? And at the same time, I need to go back to my leadership and present the value that I'm delivering to my enterprise, and the value that often has to be measured in a return on investment. And of course, you want the experience optimized. You want the equipment that you spend and buy today to be optimized for the near future. Remember that earlier slide when I said poor application deployment or considerations may lead to excessive costs, and that's what you want to avoid. Tech outcomes are pretty simple. How do I integrate with existing cloud deployments? I've got data in the AWS cloud, I've got data in Azure, and I've got data back in my core data center and data coming in from the edge. So how do I make that all work together? And then how do I easily bring that data and those applications between those scenarios so it's seamless? So my end user never sees a performance hiccup. All they know is that they're working with the app. And so these are things to consider as you think about that cloud operating model, delivering the needs out to the edge where it's picking up perhaps machine learned data, where it's in the data center, where it's actually actively running your business, and where it's present in the cloud that may be a source for a disaster recovery or data protection, much as what the rubric speaker spoke about. So of course, what we think about, and let's go, there we go, that's what I'm looking for. The Nutanix Cloud Platform. Now this is one operating model that reaches that distributed application point of view, where you can deploy this cloud platform at the edge, in your core data center, and in a hyperscaled environment. And as you see in the bottom row, the current clouds that we're supporting today are AWS and Azure, which I think represents about 85% of the market today. And then we also have support from service providers that may be offering a unique advantage and a unique capability in order to address that cost explosion. But built within this cloud platform are unified storage services that address file, object, and block data, as well as database services that manages and deploys automated services to help manage that database growth more effectively. And then, of course, database services, which is our traditional domain for hyperconvergence. and delivering a virtual desktop experience to every single user in your organization. So this is the Nutanix Cloud Platform. It's built in a software stack. It runs, as you can see here, in the public cloud. It runs on off-the-shelf hardware, and it's just also supported in a number of different service providers. One common platform to deliver those applications. So what we built into this system is, and really this is our really mantra in terms of looking at how we manage business applications. Let's make them run more efficiently. Let's make them run with agility so they deliver what they need to deliver when it's needed. And that delivers to a true scale out performance, which means it's very easy to add additional resources, be it they compute or storage as needed. We also look at the placement of data dynamically and to make sure that that data is ready when the application needs it. And of course, efficiency and simplicity all in one common operating model through one operating management operating platform through our Prism and Prism Pro products. And I can't say this enough. It's the fact that you need to have a platform that delivers resiliency. And I'm going to show you some numbers of how we back that resiliency with some key customer experiences and what our customers have said about the Nutanix Cloud Platform and its resiliency and the way it protects that data. So everything is always replicated. Every time you do a new write, it's replicated, and the user data is always protected and rebuilt as needed upon failure. We've got a lot of information about what we do in snapshotting and so forth to make sure that data protection runs efficiently and with scale, and that's part of the information that we have for you today. So now let's talk about Nutanix Cloud Clusters. And I talked earlier about having that common cloud platform that goes from the edge, which is Nutanix Cloud Platform, as well as into various hyperscalers, such as those represented by AWS and Microsoft Azure. And this is a solution that we provide that extends that platform. It's called Nutanix Cloud Platform. And then what lets you do is to take that platform, that Nutanix capability, and build that into the infrastructure supplied by the hyperscalers. So now you can use all of the existing Nutanix services that you've got in Nutanix Cloud Platform into the cloud investment that's potentially you're using. Again, considering this as a cloud operating model, an operating model that runs your business efficiently and with scale. Now we have a unified multi-cloud approach to managing the resources, be they in the public cloud, at the edge, or in the core data center. It's all a single screen. Very easy to manage, very easy to deploy, and very easy to scale. And it is completely integrated with any cloud networking that you're using today. So what we deliver is really that consistent operation look and feel. So regardless, okay, I know I'm downloading some data here, or I'm moving a workload into the cloud, we provide that resource through one common management plane. But the thing I want to get across really and get across in today's talk is the fact that it's very seamless in terms of how we provide this operating model. If you're rebuilding an application and you want to move it into the cloud setting, you don't have to refactor once it's working on the Nutanix Cloud Platform the way you want it. And so you don't have to go back and rebuild that application just because you're moving it and moving that workload up to a public cloud. That is something we eliminate with Nutanix Cloud Cluster. And as a result, across the entire experience, again, edge to data center to the cloud, you have a very predictable and consistent performance that delivers resiliency and protects that data as needed. So a couple other things I want to say too is another thing that we factor into the Nutanix platform is hypervisor choice. And this is a unique advantage to Nutanix. You perhaps want to use a VMware product in terms of delivering like vSphere or something like that to deliver the virtualized experience and the cloud experience to your end users. Or perhaps you'd rather use a Microsoft product in order to deliver that cloud experience. And we also have a number of capabilities built into our own hypervisor called AHV. And what AHV provides is definitely some great capabilities that extend from the edge into data center in the cloud. I could do a whole talk on AHV for 30 minutes, but I want to share that with you in the fact that we have delivered through partnerships with VMware, through Microsoft, and with Red Hat. And we've delivered the capabilities of making sure you have choice in how you create that cloud environment for your applications. And that is something that we provide, and especially through AHV, We provide no penalty license costs. So let's say you're using our hypervisor in the core data center and you want to extend that up to the public cloud through MC2. We don't require you to relicense the software. You're up and running as you need. So it's a key advantage that we provide. And I think the value, as I said here in the title, is the flexibility we give to running your business. You make the decisions where you want to place the workload with Nutanix, and we help you get there. So let's talk a little bit about some use case patterns that we're also seeing from customers that are now extending Nutanix Cloud platform into the public cloud. Well, disaster recovery is probably the biggest one that our customers use today. And it was great as the Rubrik folks explained of what some of the capabilities they provide to ensure that data is completely backed up and ready to be recovered. So disaster recovery is simply just one use case, just moving workloads out of your data center. And again, that's probably the number one use case for our customers and what they want to use in terms of building that common cloud platform. On-demand elasticity is probably the second biggest use case that we're finding, and I call this kind of the seasonal experience. Let's say, for example, you need to burst new resources or new applications into the cloud in order to address seasonality in your business. Perhaps you're a retailer delivering the Christmas season. Perhaps you're a landscape company delivering landscape services. There's seasonality built into your business that you need to address, and you want to have that flexibility in order to address that rapidly. So a great way to do that is to build perhaps out on the edge or into the public cloud setting through that common cloud experience with Nutanix. And then lifting and shifting. This is the earlier comment that I talked about. You want to easily move applications into the public cloud because that's where your customers want to go. Remember, there's an app for it, and it's an easy way to resolve that and how to deliver that application to your customers. And number one thing that we hear over and over again is we don't want to refactor these applications and rebuild them just to meet the needs of the public cloud. So by using Nutanix Cloud Platform within and with Nutanix Cloud Clusters, that goes away. And you have that common data experience and application experience across those three environments. I want to talk a little bit about disaster recovery because, again, that's what we hear over and over again from our customers. So we provide services such as a one-click failover through Nutanix Cloud Clusters, especially if you're using that with the Nutanix Cloud Platform in a hyperscaler. You have the ability to automatically orchestrate design recovery plans, such as perhaps those that you designed with Rubrik and other disaster recovery companies. And we have integration in terms of the snapshotting that we do with the data protection we provide. So it's per VM speed. And so that delivers a lot faster protection in terms of delivering that resiliency for your disaster recovery. And we give you choice now. You can do all this all on-premise. You can do this in a hyperscale environment through AWS or perhaps Azure. You can do it through our own service, what we call disaster recovery as a service, and this is a capability that we provide. And some of these features is delivering the RPO specs that you need in less than 5 seconds. And then we also have a number of MSPs that we work with, managed service providers that deliver disaster recovery services and use Nutanix Cloud Platform to help deliver that capability. I guess the key thing I want you to take away here is we provide choice. We provide choice in how you wanted to take advantage and ensure disaster recovery is present for your Nutanix-based applications. And again, this is the number one workload that we hear over and over again for our customers of why they want to build and use Nutanix Cloud Platform into a hyperscaled environment. So I wanted to share with you some of the numbers. This is a recent report that we partnered with IDC. We actually refreshed the earlier one we had done with them, which is the business value reports. And we originally published it in January of 2020, and we went back and talked to a whole different set of customers to find out what kind of value are we delivering today by using Nutanix Cloud Platform is a common cloud operating model. And this report is available from Nutanix.com. We published it in October of 2022. A couple things I want to point out. Number one, remember I talked about cost reduction and risk reduction, and that's what our customers want to achieve. Well, that number stands out very well, delivering a 43% reduced cost, total cost of operations in running the applications for your business. And what that generates is a return on investment of over 5 years of 356%. I know your finance people would love to see those kinds of numbers as you come in and propose an infrastructure refresh. And also, most importantly, it's how quickly it pays itself back. And within a year, our customers had returned their investment and had a 12-month payback period. So again, delighted with the numbers that they were seeing. We also have a number of customers that are starting green initiatives, and they want to understand how they can reduce the carbon footprint that their data centers are deploying. And this is something we did see a carbon emission reduction of up to 57.5K. So this is a number also that you can talk about as you think about green initiatives and working within the data center power and cooling infrastructure that's needed in order to support those operations. The other number I'm very proud of and what I've heard from our customer is the unplanned downtime that they experience by, again, that goes back to my resiliency point with Nutanix Cloud Platform, up to 97% less unplanned downtime. That's what contributed to that 43% reduced total cost of operations, because unplanned downtime costs money. And that's something to consider. And when you're going back and looking at how to refresh, redo some of the things within your infrastructure to support this tsunami of applications, think about unplanned downtime and what it would cost your business. And then there's a number of different things. We're producing a lot more productive teams, efficiency within data centers, so IT staff can go off and start innovating rather than just specialized infrastructure skills and maintaining the applications and the infrastructure that they're supporting today, and reducing the total infrastructure cost by 36%. We deliver this, and again, that is something we look towards in delivering to our customers, a reduced cost experience and a reduced risk in terms of the total operation value. So this IDC report is available from Nutanix.com. Just search on IDC and you'll get the report. And I'm going to tell you at the end, reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you can't find the report, I'd be happy to send you a copy of it too. So we power a lot of business applications and workloads in the Nutanix Cloud Platform, anywhere from databases where we support both open source as well as commercial databases represented by Microsoft SQL Server and Oracle databases. And we also do a lot of support, and more customers are coming to us for deploying open source database environments. And we have a great tool that helps automate the operations of that called Nutanix Database Service, which is something to consider if you are operating multiple engines and multiple database instances of these engines within your environment. We also support a number of different, what I call business critical applications, the ones that run your business, and you know what they are. They are ASP ERP systems, they're Oracle ERP systems, they're ERP systems that you may be still using from IBM. I mentioned a lot of conversation of how we support virtualization, so I'm going to skip over there and talk about some of the industry applications that we support. The number one, of course, for medical imaging records and delivering portal services to customers. I don't know if you're a CVS patient, but I just learned my patient portal is running on Epic, which is a key workload that we run on Nutanix Cloud Platform. FIS is something used extensively in the financial business, and we also support Medic, which is, I think, another key healthcare application used in a number of different hospitals. As you see, we've got a number of different data protection solutions, including Rubrik that we support, and then everything from edge all the way over to cloud-native applications. So if you're building out applications that will reside simply in the cloud, we've got a lot of different solutions and have partnered with a lot of companies to ensure that you've got a great operating environment on Nutanix Cloud Platform. So spending some time with customers, what we should talk about. The first one I'd like to talk about is Penn National. And they've got a really nice quote here on how they've extended the Nutanix Cloud Platform into AWS, in this case, as I mentioned earlier, disaster recovery and on-premise data protection. So what they did is they took their cluster from Nutanix and they moved it into AWS. In less than 2 hours, all of their desktops that they support their entire company on were up in AWS. So the employees were immediately able to log into their virtual desktops off network. And that was really important to them, is because they really wanted to simplify the operations through our unified management approach. So as you see, some of the value they realized, system upgrades were reduced to a few hours, disaster recovery to under 2 hours, and database provisioning dropped from over a week to 45 minutes. Excuse me for a minute. I've got a little bit of a cold. I should address that. And this is what happens when I talk too much. CarMax is another customer of ours that had, again, a couple of unique situations. They ran many core systems on Nutanix with a lot of different workloads, powering the workloads that I mentioned earlier, which includes databases, some of the applications they support, everything in moving their car inventory to their customers. And what they did and what they realized is after consolidating workflows and applications onto one hyper-converged solution from Nutanix, they simplified operations and successfully made, across all their stores, made operations that much faster. What they also developed are some new concepts to deliver the business agility. I mean, what their business model is, of course, selling cars. And so they want to make sure that they're selling cars that much faster. And as a result as well, they've reduced a lot of risk. As I mentioned, it reduced a lot of costs by deploying on Nutanix Cloud Platform. And so they were very happy. Again, one of the applications, they're both supporting their own applications internally, as well as the virtual applications such as virtual desktops and so forth, and deploying those across their company. So with that, I want to leave you with one thought. It's for me to say how wonderful it is, but I'd like you to try it out yourself. We've got a number of trials and demonstrations on our test drive solution. Take a look at nutanix.com/oneplatform and try it for yourself. And with that, Jess, I think we can take some questions. We have time?
Yeah. Maggie, thank you so much for that presentation, and especially when you have a cold. Some great points in there. I love the opportunities to reduce costs, reduce risk. I think being armed with those arguments makes everyone's decision making, especially if they're taking these to decision makers. That's a great argument to have in their tool chest there. You actually answered a lot of these questions, but we still have quite a few coming in. Unfortunately, we're right up on time, so we're gonna have to do this pretty quickly. I'm gonna bend the rules and sneak in a question or two. I just know you had so much good info to cover, Maggie. We did get a couple of questions about sort of folks who are maybe on-prem currently and transitioning to the cloud. And so I just want to go back a minute. And I know you talked a lot about cloud, but just to kind of clarify for anyone out there, do they have to move their everything onto the cloud in order to work with Nutanix? Is there an option to get help with that? How could Nutanix fit in with somebody who's sort of switching over from maybe on-premise or to cloud?
Right. Well, we are a cloud platform. Virtualization is cloud. And so hyperconvergence is virtualization. So you are there. And the good news is we do have a lot of help. We can give you a lot of help. We have, number one, a really good professional services organization that can come out and do some pre-planning, do architectural workshops with you, and help you do that experience. As also, we have a number of channel partners that we work with that can deliver that experience as well. So that's a great question. And of course, that's something we can help with.
Perfect. There you go. So Matt, if that's something you're interested in, follow up with Nutanix and get some help with that. Maggie, I so wish we could keep chatting about this, honestly, but we're a little bit over time, so I'm going to have to wrap it there. But before we go, oh, shoot, you know what? I'm going to put the poll up. I got so ready to ask you questions. The poll is up right now on the screen for you all. So if you'd like any additional information about the Nutanix solution, please do take a second and click on that poll. Obviously, there's a lot of questions we're not getting to, so for those of you out there, we will make sure that those go to Nutanix. Maggie, if you have some time to stick around on live chat and get some answers out, that's also great. But either way, another great way to make sure that you get that follow-up is to click on the poll that you see on your screen. Make sure that you get the info you need. Maggie, before we let you run away, though, I know you had the link up on the screen that now, of course, I've navigated away to have the poll up. But is there anything else that you'd want somebody to know about Nutanix and or sort of a first step for getting started?
Well, gosh, that's a really good question. The best is to visit our website, take a test drive. There's going to be an actual, chat bot that's going to come up and say, hey, can we put you in touch with somebody to go on and have a conversation about what you need? And we'd be more than happy to have a very low key, no pressure discussion about what your requirements are. We'd love to hear from you and, just share some more customer experiences of what they've learned. But really the best way is to visit us at nutanix.com, take a test drive. I'm seeing data sheets are needed. They're up there to search on Nutanix Cloud Platform. We've got a lot of white papers. Personally been involved with a couple of different ones, definitive guides for running business applications on Nutanix and things to consider. That's available as well. Customer case studies, CarMax is up there, Penn National is up there. A lot of different case studies are up there, and then seeing what's coming in. And thank you, the 11 that responded that you're already a customer. Thank you for your business. I appreciate that.
That's awesome.
I'm watching the poll come in. So, drop me a note on LinkedIn and just search on Maggie Smith Nutanix and let me know if there's something we can help you with. And we can put you in touch with kind of a next step, a partner or one of our internal salespeople to talk about what your needs are and figure out how we can address them.
Well, I love that, Maggie, and I want you to know that Peter has posted saying, great presentation, thank you so much. And I would have to agree with Peter there. That was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you being here with us today.
All right, thank you, Jess. Thank you for having me.
All right, and thanks to everyone who took some time to fill out that poll. Please do keep those coming. I'm going to leave that up just a second longer, and I'm also going to suggest that you head on over to our handouts tab. Make sure that you get the handout from Nutanix. It's actually a business value white paper with IDC sponsored by Nutanix. The business value of Nutanix Cloud Platform. This is such a great read. It is just absolutely jam-packed with information, so definitely worth that. Download that, save that for after we wrap, because we do have not only another prize giveaway right now, but also another presentation. So don't get lost reading that just yet, but make sure you've got that saved for once we're done here. Also for anyone, and I am still seeing questions coming in for Nutanix, please do know, again, we've got the team here with us on live chat, and then also making sure that Nutanix will get all of those questions so that they are able to follow up and make sure that you get answers to them. Okay, well, I said the word prize, and I know all your ears just perked up at that, so let's go ahead and do another prize giveaway. We're going to give away a $500 Amazon gift card, and then extra jazzy, 2 Apple iPhone 14 Pros, 2 of them coming up next. So a reminder that you do need to be here, present live at the MegaCast in order to win. Our next winner of a $500 Amazon gift card today is James Chen of California. James Chen of California. And our next 2 winners of an Apple iPhone 14 Pro, Sherwin McAdam of Maryland and Natasha Hawkins of Texas. That was Sherwin McAdam of Maryland and Natasha Hawkins of Texas. Congratulations, James, on your gift card, and to both Sherwin and Natasha for your awesome, shiny new phones. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after we wrap today, and there's still one more chance to win, plus that best question gift card from each session. And again, we're checking those out after we wrap, so you'll hear a follow-up about that later on. All right, now I have snuck in a quick little announcement before we get into our next presentation, because I told you I would come back to this decisions group, and I am so excited to talk to you about this. So we wanted to make sure that we stopped and actually took a minute to look at it. Now, there's a link in your handouts tab if you want to go check that out. And spend a little time exploring this right away. But basically, this is a brand new initiative from Actual Tech Media for those of you out there who are in that kind of decision-making category within your organization. So the idea is that you're part of, think of it kind of like I'm picturing like a jobber board, and what will end up happening is two parts. One is you'll fill out an application, you'll tell us about all the things that you're interested in and what your organization needs, and then we will help pair you with the best vendors, the best organizations, the best solutions that you should be speaking to kind of help fit those needs. And the other side of it is that some of these organizations will also say, hey, here's a thing that we need. We have a brand new piece of, an innovation or something new, that new service that we're launching, and we want to kind of talk to people about it and test run it. So we're looking for people to try something out, to fill out a survey. They might have different prizes or incentives or things available as part of those conversations, or it may just be something, the opportunity to explore something new and exciting. And then you'll get to select which one of those things you want to participate in. So there's sort of a 2-part to it. One is us pairing you with people and organizations, and one is you getting to sign up for the things, the sort of extended opportunities that you'd like to take. So really, really cool group and a neat opportunity. So be sure to click on that link. And be sure that you are taking a little time to explore that. And, you'll get all kinds of new, speaking of innovative, new evolving enhancements and solutions and innovations that are coming from all these organizations. So very excited about this. As I said, this is literally the second time that we've spoken about it to our audience. So we just launched last week. You are the second group to hear about it. So it is brand new and very excited to explore this. So be an early adopter. Go check that out. All right, well, here we are at our very last presentation of today's MegaCast. Every time I say this, the day just seems to be so full and yet so fast. So the bad news is we're almost done. But the good news is that we are ending on a great note, because up next, I'm very excited to introduce you all to Meg Diaz, Vice President of Platform and Solutions Marketing at Lacework. Meg, I am so excited to have you here with us today. Now, I know we also want to leave some time for questions. You've got a lot to cover, so I'm going to step back and hand things on over to you. Take it away, Meg.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro, Jess. And I'm really excited to be with all of you today. Now, whether you're a company that was born in the cloud and you've been building there from the very beginning, or if you're now moving from on-prem workloads to cloud-native applications, or you have plans to, it can be a bit daunting to know where to even start when it comes to securing the cloud. And it can be a totally different beast from on-prem. Or maybe you've been doing it for a while and you might be looking at what your next step is going to be to advance your cloud security program. Well, today we're going to really walk through the 5-step journey that you can take to full cloud security. But first, I want to start off with a little analogy, because who doesn't love an analogy? And when you think about cloud environments, right, they're wonderful. They open up a lot of freedom for builders, but they're also complex and really dynamic in nature. There are different security layers that you want to think about, right? When you think about defense in depth, same thing applies in the cloud. And it's similar to how you might think about securing a multi-tenant office building, right? First thing you want to do is make sure all of the windows and doors are locked and that they stay locked. You want to prioritize that first floor, external doors and other high-risk entries first. That's the same thing in the cloud when you want to uncover vulnerabilities, whether it's in container images or fixing misconfigurations in your cloud accounts, like an open S3 bucket. Now, just addressing this piece might be the initial start, but more advanced security is really needed when you think about the sensitivity of data that you have in your cloud and the evolving threat landscape that we're all facing. So when you think about from a building perspective, you want to start monitoring who's entering the building and where are they going based on badge-ins, right? You think if you had employee 1 badges into the building, then goes to the kitchen, then to the office area for company A, right? Is this normal behavior? This is kind of similar to the monitoring that you want to be able to do for cloud accounts and services like Kubernetes. Where you kind of build this understanding of how the environment typically operates. And so that can give you insight to who deployed or modified a certain service in a specific region and determine, was this expected? And by monitoring this activity, you can uncover account compromise and things like that. Now, then you want to go deeper, right? When you think about from a security perspective, you might want to use smart cameras to watch what's happening in hallways in the office or meeting rooms and make sure that, people are where they belong and doing the things that they should be doing. So that's kind of like monitoring your workloads and containers in runtime and watching for unusual activity, like, changes to files or an application talking to an external IP for the first time. All things that could be signs of a potential attack. And then the last not last, but another thing is all of these elements, how they work together. That's where it becomes much more powerful when you combine all of the insights together. So think about it like having a centralized team of security guards that are constantly analyzing the information and can alert when something suspicious is happening. And because they have all of the recorded activity over time, investigations can be easier too. And the same thing applies to the cloud, right? When you're investigating malicious activity in a particular workload, you want to have that play-by-play about what actually happened. And so these are just some of the elements that we think about when securing your cloud infrastructure and data. So let's talk a little bit more about specific steps that you can take in securing your cloud. We're going to walk through each of these steps in a bit more detail. And I will call out that this was really built more from the perspective of how a security team could approach it. And it's definitely not a hard and fast, you must take these 5 steps in this exact order, right? You need to think about what's right for your organization and where your specific concerns lie. So you can really think of this as 5 major areas to factor into your overall plans. Cloud security isn't a completely new area, obviously. And like all technology, it's been evolving, right? And one of the new buzzwords that you may be hearing, and you saw in the title of the presentation, is CNAPP. Now, CNAPP, if you're not familiar with it, it stands for Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. And it's really all about how you secure cloud apps through their entire lifecycle. So it's really combining some existing product categories like cloud security posture management or CSPM and cloud workload protection platforms or CWPP. But it's a category that is now including a lot more, which we'll get into in a minute. But you can really think of CNAPP as really the solution that can help you across this entire journey of securing cloud native applications. Now, getting into the first step of the journey, right? Understanding your cloud and your risks. I mentioned earlier, securing what you build in the cloud is really a different beast, right? It's easy for anyone to spin up new accounts and services, and it can be really hard to get visibility into what is actually the true scope of your cloud and where are the biggest risks. And you think of also, the scale and the ephemeral nature of the cloud, it can be hard to actually understand what's happening and what you should be concerned about. So to tackle this step, it all starts with getting visibility into risks across your cloud. From a Lacework perspective, we deploy in minutes to your cloud account. So whether it's using AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, all of them, and we're tying into the existing APIs that they have. And so we can show you what you have deployed, how it's configured, if there are any vulnerabilities or misconfigurations that exist. And you can also agentlessly scan workloads for vulnerabilities and secrets. So you get that instant coverage of your production environments. And that includes, scanning container images, hosts, and language libraries. And so when you get this visibility into your cloud resources and what's happening and where there are risks, it helps you answer questions like, how many environments do we actually have, right? We know a lot of customers who are like, I'm not actually sure how much is out there. What assets do we have? Where are they? How are they configured? Are we meeting compliance standards? So this first step is really all about helping you answer those questions. Then the next thing is once you have all of that kind of risk information, actually prioritizing what vulnerabilities and misconfigurations or other risks to prioritize fixing can be challenging, right? You think it's easy to find a tool that can find vulnerable systems, right? And give you a list of hundreds or thousands of vulnerabilities to fix. And the harder part is to figure out which ones actually matter and which ones should your team focus on. And what we really look at is, security teams can kind of be viewed as the heroes by giving developers and operations teams the right context to help them fix the most important things. So from at Lacework, we kind of take all of that risk data that you have and correlate it together to show what combinations of risk factors and vulnerable resources could lead to potential attack paths. So you take things like vulnerabilities, the network reachability of systems. If there's exposed secrets, you can look at identity and access management roles, IAM roles, and tie all of that together so you get a full picture of the issues on different hosts and systems. So that's, instead of it being somebody looking at a single issue in isolation, they're now seeing how that one risk is actually linked to several others. And we can even pull in runtime data to make this even richer. And now by doing this, you basically get a view of your environment through the lens of an attacker, right? The attackers will look for different ways to get in and different gaps that they can take advantage of once they are in to get to kind of those crown jewels that you have. And by automatically tying together this information in this way, you can really better prioritize which issues to address first to reduce the risk. You can even see a visualization to aid in the investigation and then leverage remediation guidance to do something about it. So really this step is all about helping you answer questions like, how do we prioritize all these vulnerabilities? What else could actually be exploited that we should be concerned about? Now, moving on to the next one, build security into development. So this step actually tends to be the most hotly debated. Pretty much everybody agrees that the ideal state is to factor security into the development process so that you're not constantly fixing things in production, which can be costly and time intensive to do. And let's face it, like it's just annoying for developers. So this step is all about building security checks into development, shifting security left so that you're fixing more issues pre-production. And now, once you have kind of an initial lay of the land of your cloud from the other two steps, security teams might want to introduce this more to developers, right? They're more comfortable with it and they want to start incorporating it in other ways. Now, the debate comes in about whether you introduce it at this point or later in the journey. And what I would say is that it ultimately depends on your organization and your priorities and how this will be perceived and adopted by those teams. So take that with a grain of salt. And I think it comes down to whatever makes sense for you. Just keep in mind how you can operationalize this and incorporate it directly into the developers or the operations team's workflows. That's an important point that we've seen. Now, to do this, Lacework offers several options to help developers to scan locally or in registries that they're using or directly in the CI/CD pipeline and look for vulnerabilities and misconfigurations. And we also help with infrastructure as code scanning as well, so you can get even earlier in the process. Now, the other piece that we focus on is giving developers enough context so that they don't have to go researching in a bunch of places, and we give remediation guidance too. You think about if you were to give a vulnerability to a developer, the more information that you can provide them about where it is, why it's critical to fix it, and how to fix it, it's just saving them the time and even helps in building the relationships between the teams. So now that you have an understanding of how your cloud environment is configured and where you have risks, you then want to think about monitoring what's actually happening in your cloud accounts and services. So this could include things like Kubernetes. And this is how we can see if you've been compromised through any of those critical risks. And if you were, then how do you understand the blast radius? We often hear from customers that one way that they do this is by sending all of their cloud audit logs to a SIEM. And then they have to spend a lot of time manually writing or tuning rules to try to figure out what is bad or what does bad look like. And this can be a challenge because it requires a lot of deep security and cloud expertise, which can be a little bit like finding a unicorn. I'm sure many of you can attest to that. And then because there's not only the, trying to figure out and write rules for what's bad, with the constant changes that happen in the cloud, it can also result in a lot of alerts and false positives that can take time for the team to sift through. And at Lacework, we have a patented technology called Polygraph that combines behavioral analytics and machine learning. And it's basically continuously learning what behaviors are normal in your specific environment. So we're comparing you to you, not some arbitrary baseline. It's really what's happening in your environment. It learns that and then identifies when there are meaningful changes. And that's how we help you to uncover account compromise or other malicious activity. And we're tying together the context to help you quickly understand what happened, why, how, and so on. So we give you kind of the 5 W's. And the way that we do this is through cloud audit log analysis. And by pre-filtering and analyzing those logs with Lacework, instead of sending all of it to your SIEM, you can significantly reduce your SIEM ingest costs of cloud, whether it's CloudTrail or other cloud audit logs. And this is actually an area we've had customers report up to an 80% reduction in SIEM ingestion by doing that pre-filtering with Lacework first, and then only sending the most meaningful data to the SIEM. And now taking a step further with securing workloads, you want to look at more completely securing those workloads and containers. And we hear a lot from customers that are looking to develop more of a microservices-based architecture, and they want to make sure that they can extend that same visibility and security here too that they have in other areas of their cloud. But the challenge can be getting the right level of depth of visibility to really understand what's happening there within the workloads, within the containers. And so we have at Lacework, we have a workload and container security agent that basically it's lightweight, but it's continuously monitoring your most important applications and environments, especially. So this can help you find new risks. So whether it's new vulnerabilities that pop up in production or misconfigurations that happen, And especially when we're looking at workloads and containers that are actively running in production. And so we help you understand the changes in behavior to detect whether it's unknown threats, so like even zero-day attacks, because we're looking at the behavior of what's happening. We're not relying solely on indicators of compromise or known signatures. We can detect not only known threats, because we do cover that, but even the unknown threats we can do. And that's really the beauty of the polygraph technology is uncovering that anomalous activity without requiring endless rules or deep security expertise. It's the system learning that automatically and helping to pull together the right context and provide the right visibility so that you can understand what's happening and if there's any evidence of compromise. So really with this, it's about being able to answer the question of what's actually happening in our workloads, and are the right things talking to the right things in our environment? Is anything happening that shouldn't be happening? And if there is something bad that happens, how do we identify it and quickly shut down those threats? So bringing this all together, so we walked through all these steps, and really it's about how all of this comes together. So at Lacework, our platform that does all of this is our polygraph data platform. So it's unifying all of these capabilities and then covering you from the very beginning of development with IAC all the way through to production. So across that entire application lifecycle. And the beauty of it is really, as you move to the right on this slide, there's more and more data that we're able to correlate together to help you gain even richer insights. So it's not all this siloed data that your team has to manually pull together. We're automating that work for you. So for example, in a single alert, you can understand the potential exposure and risk that you face, but then you can see that in combination with insights about if there's active exploit activity happening, right? So you could find a vulnerable system, but is there also some active exploit activity happening in production? And so we're automating this for you, giving you the context that you need to quickly investigate and then take action. And an important point, I think, for any sort of platform is how it integrates into your team's existing workflows to really make the process seamless across security, developer, and operations teams. And just to kind of show that, like, this is what we really focus on is with our security platform. It's about understanding behaviors in your cloud environment. And so a big piece of that is the fact that this is really a data-driven platform. We are using data as really an active part of the solution. And so the system is constantly learning and getting smarter over time. And you're leveraging the data that you already have, but then using it to make your teams and your security more effective. And we look at this as one place for each of these teams that we've talked about to know the security truth across your cloud. So it's that single security source of truth across your cloud environment. And it's really built in the cloud for the cloud and for a multi-cloud environment too. And so that's kind of the overview, some of the steps that you can take. So if you want to see more, you can visit lacework.com, see it in action. And Jess, I think we'll open it up for some questions now.
Yeah, Meg, thank you so much for that awesome presentation. I love the single source of truth. I think that's something that a lot of us are looking for. So I know that's really going to resonate with our audience. Speaking of which, we have a ton of great questions coming in already, and I want to get to as many of them as we can. So Meg, are you ready to dive in?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. All right. So this is actually an interesting place to start because there's a lot of hype these days around the agentless approaches to cloud security. I've definitely heard some vendors say that an agentless approach alone can fulfill the promise of CNAPP. So this audience member is kind of wanting to dig into that a little bit. They're asking if you could speak to the value of an agentless approach to cloud security and whether or not that approach alone is sufficient to achieving full cloud security.
Yeah, happy to. And it is something, I mean, agentless is a great it's a great technology, right? Because it gives you the ability you can deploy very quickly. And like we had talked about earlier, right? Sometimes it's just about how do I just get visibility? it's also not always feasible to deploy agents everywhere. Sometimes there can be pushback that you get from different teams. And so to kind of aid security teams in getting the right visibility with as little friction as possible, agentless is a great approach for that. And that's why, Lacework offers that as well. But when you think about kind of going back to the analogy about the smart cameras constantly watching what's going on, when you think about actually continuously monitoring what's happening in workloads, that's where having some sort of agent there is, a piece of software, something there to actually capture all of the data of what's happening. It just gives you so much more depth and really aids in the investigation, right? You think about, I know with my Ring camera, for example, sometimes if you're missing part of what happened, you could miss somebody stealing a package, right? And that is the same thing where if you're just relying on agentless, it tends to be, it's snapshot based. So you could miss important things that happen. And when you think of how quickly things change in the cloud, we're talking, things can change in milliseconds. So if you're not continuously watching and seeing what's happening, then you could really miss something important that, could leave you open or could be critical during an investigation. So that's really, we look at it as having a layered approach to security. Absolutely using agentless to get started, deploy quickly, and then go deeper, especially for your more critical resources over time.
I love that. I think sometimes we focus so much, we hear that all the time, the human element when you're talking about cybersecurity and human risk factors. And really interesting to think about sort of the flip side of it, where using the human element to our benefit rather than just seeing that as something to kind of protect against. Great information. I want to get to another question here because so there are some elements of CNAP that have been in place from the beginning. And you mentioned in your presentation CSPM and CWPP. But we have a question here wondering if there are any other areas of cloud security that are now being looped into the CNAP umbrella.
Yes. Yeah. Great question. Because I think when you look at CNAP, it did kind of start from those core areas of CSPM and CWPP, like getting the view into the risks and what's happening in the workloads. But you think about cloud security, and I think you think about, first of all, continuing to shift more right and shift more left. I think there's a lot of focus on shifting left, but there's more that I think we can continue to do in helping on on the right side, on the production side. But some of the elements that I think will especially come into CNAP in the future is, I think, even more around shift left security. So when you think about getting deeper into the code, right? Because it's one thing to fix it and block a container using, if there's a risky or a vulnerable container about to be pushed to production, being able to block that with Kubernetes admission controller is one way to prevent. But what if you get further left and being able to stop before it even gets written into code and push through checks? So I think it's really more about how do we just continue to catch security, make it more ingrained into the developer workflows earlier. That'll ultimately help a lot on the, when you're reacting to something that might be happening in production.
All right. We are running very short on time, but I'm going to sneak in one last question here because it's a great one from someone who has clearly been doing their homework. So they said, I recently noticed Lacework's press release around attack path analysis. Now, I know this is something other vendors offer as well. So how is Lacework's approach to attack path differentiated? What is your unique? I think they're wondering.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. We were talking to an analyst recently who was saying that attack path analysis is one of the technologies of the year. It's coming up quite a bit from vendors. And from a Lacework perspective, what we really are looking at is the fact that, a lot of vendors will just kind of look at, well, what are the potential risks? And where we really take it a step further is not only showing you what the potentials are and how those are tied together, but then by tying it with what's actually happening in runtime and being able to see active exploit activity or where there maybe isn't, just getting that context is really where Lacework sets ourselves apart, because we bring in that build time, that runtime data, tie it together for you. So making it easier to access it in one place. And it just gives you much richer information and to be able to make decisions and, do the things that really matter.
Well, that is important. And Meg, I have to say, I wish we could keep going with this. We are going to have to leave it there. But before we let you go, for anyone out there that has just totally fallen in love with lacework, and I'm sure that's all of them, what should the folks in our audience do if they want to get started? What's their first step?
Yeah, so I think, we mentioned go to lacework.com. We also have a new, we were rated by Frost & Sullivan as a leader in CNAP. So you can view the report and check out more details about why. And there's lots of other demos. And if you want to do a trial, lots of other information there.
Awesome. And if you were wondering, that report is in the handouts tab that I've been reminding you about. So head on back over to that handouts tab, click in, find the Lacework link, and you can grab that report there. Meg, thank you so much. This has just been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jess. Thanks, everyone.
All right, and you can see that I've put that poll question up for you. What we would love to get some feedback on is what additional resources you would like to explore and learn a little bit more from Lacework. So please do make sure that you get a chance to fill out that question. I saw a couple folks like Satyam, I know you were looking for a case study, so we've got that logged, and we'll make sure that Lacework sees that, but you can also click right here on the poll and let them know that you'd like to get a customer case study, and they'll make sure to follow up with you. Both of those options, sending us a comment and also filling out the polls, great ways to make sure that you get that feedback. All right, so I'm seeing some great questions still coming in, and I do want to remind you that I know that we didn't have time to get to all of them with Meg, but we will make sure that Lacework gets all of those questions, and so you will get some follow-up. While you're filling out the poll, also take a minute. We were just hearing about that Frost & Sullivan report that Meg mentioned. So you can actually find that in your handout tab. Frost Radar Cloud Native Application Protection Platforms 2022. You'll get to learn all about how this awesome benchmarking system can help kind of, as they say, spark companies to action. I love that. Innovation that fuels new deal flow and growth pipelines. I think that's pretty cool, and that's what we're here to talk about today, right, is innovation fueling new opportunities. So go grab that handout. Make sure you've got that for later. While you're doing that and you are clicking on the poll, and I'm also seeing some high fives coming in from Venkat, from Jorge. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed that presentation. I did as well. Meg is absolutely fascinating. Definitely a great way to wrap up our MegaCast. So thank you for those good vibes. Thanks to those who asked questions and who clicked on the poll. I'm going to leave that up for a second while I give away our very last prize giveaway. So we are going to do both a $500 Amazon gift card and 2 Apple iPhone 14 Pros to wrap up the day here today. I'll remind you again that you do need to be live present with us at the MegaCast in order to win. And our very next winner of a $500 Amazon gift card is Shivali Kyla. Shivali Kyla of Texas. Shivali Kyla of Texas, you have won a $500 Amazon gift card. Congratulations. And our Apple iPhone 14 Pros are going to Jeremy Woods of Colorado and David Nelson of North Carolina. That's Jeremy Woods of Colorado and David Nelson of North Carolina. I'm going to do the entire list over again, so hang tight with me and we'll get to that. Jeff Leacos of California won a gift card. A phone went to Dalton Wynn of Minnesota. Gift card went to James Chen of California, and a phone going to Sherwin McAdam of Maryland, also to Natasha Hawkins of Texas. A gift card going to Shivali Kela of Texas, and phones going to Jeremy Woods of Colorado and David Nelson of North Carolina. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after we wrap up today. And don't forget about that best question gift card, which we will get to once we've had a chance to review all the questions asked, and then we'll follow up with you. All right, if you are here at the MegaCast today, you're having a great time, and I know you all are, and you think to yourself, hey, that looks like fun, and you would like to join in on a future summit, EcoCast, MegaCast, or webinar, we would absolutely love to hear from you. So please do reach out to us via email at connect@actualtechmedia.com, and we will get that conversation rolling. All right, well, with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I really do want to thank all of our speakers that were here with us today from Rubrik, from Nutanix, and from Lacework for making this MegaCast possible. And a very special thank you on that note to all of you for attending, not only attending, but asking some great questions, for getting involved in the conversation, bringing that discussion level up, answering the polls, and hey, just generally being awesome humans. I had a lot of fun with you all today talking about some of these innovative technologies, the solutions, the strategies, strategies, thinking about maybe some of the fun ways that you can all supercharge your organization's cloud infrastructure. And that's what we're here for, right? Kind of powering up, looking for those new tools, those new ideas. That's the fun of the world that we're in, right? Is there's always something new and exciting around the corner. And so I really like these days when we get to maybe step back a little bit and think about those fun and innovative opportunities. Well, I hope that you're all feeling fired up and ready to do a little research. I hope you've got those handouts downloaded so that you can do a little reading after we wrap. And I hope that you've had a great time with us this morning. I know I have as well. And I hope that you will all come back. So mark your calendars right now for Friday, February 17th. That's 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We have a panel cast. Now, if you haven't been to a panel cast, it's exactly what it sounds like. We get a panel of experts, and we sit around and we talk about something cool. And we get expert opinions from a couple of different folks, and they get to kind of bat some ideas around. And we pull the questions entirely from the audience. When you register, you get to submit some questions. So we have those questions, and then we kind of take some questions live as we go through. So it's a whole interactive experience. It's very cool. This one is going to be called Underscoring the Importance of Zero Trust in Modern Organizations. Super interesting topic. And again, that's Friday, February 17th at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So I hope that I get to see you all there, and or at any webinar, MegaCast Summit coming up soon. Either way, whenever I get to see you again, it'll be a great day. And until then, have an absolutely beautiful end to this one. Thanks so much, folks.